Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project. And that is Huck L. Berry. She's the executive producer. She demands me say that this is Huck TV. Her channel, her show. Yeah, I said it. Don't be mad. I heard the grunt, but no, I said it. Just like you told me to. Yeah. All right, folks. That is the new movie poster for the movie coming March 21st, and you can attend. Yes, if you go to missing411.com, go to our online store there, you will see tickets available at the premiere in Tacoma, Washington, starting at 2 p.m. March 21st. That's a Saturday. It'll be quite a day. It's got a lot of good things planned. So if you don't want to attend or you live out of state, then you can actually watch it online. We're going to have it streaming, and you can sign up for the streaming at the store as well. So we are excited. It is going to be it's different than any movie I've ever made. Let me say that. It falls along the same lines as the Missing 411, but the number of cases that we found in Washington State, and once we got into the minutia of the data, unbelievable. Great witnesses, unbelievable stories. Truthfully, I could make a series that would go on for years, just dealing with disappearances in National Park and not string it out at all. I mean, that would be solid for a year. That's how scary this scenario is. Now, I got one story for you tonight, and then a special segment came in from Stan Gordon in Pennsylvania, probably one of the premier researchers of Bigfoot and UFOs. Unbelievable man. Spent almost his entire life researching the topic. I've got a special segment about him later. But the first story I'm going to talk to you about today involves a Native American disappearance. Now, many of the disappearances involving Native Americans are alcohol and drug related, unfortunately. Before Harvey Pratt died, he and I had lengthy discussions about this. And Harvey had worked a lot of these cases before. Just in the last 5 years, cartels from Mexico have made a huge push into Native American reservations in North America and Canada. They're smart. They know that many of the people that living on these reservations are poor, don't have a lot of money. So what they do is they send men up into the reservations, hang out in social areas, make friends with the single women, wine and dine them, get them to allow them to move in, and then they have an established premise on the reservation that's somewhat insulated from law enforcement from the outside. And law enforcement on reservations historically is horrible. Truth. Well, the women aren't used to seeing a lot of money. And they're enthralled with this. And they're protective of these people. Normally, on most reservations, you have the Bureau of Indian Affairs Police. Horrifically managed. A horrible reporting system that many times their own officers can't find the reports they wrote. In the last 2 years, law enforcement established a federal task force for a lot of these disappearances and crimes. But it's very ill-staffed. And many of the locations that are staffed have one detective for a huge reservation. Oftentimes, that one officer is too afraid to do anything because the cartels overrun them. And oftentimes that one officer or agent doesn't have the experience to put a big case together. And this is why a lot of these cases on reservations flounder for decades. And many times the Native Americans themselves are protective of the criminals that are on the reservation doing this. Maybe they're afraid as well. Now, there are incidents on these reservations that are not drug and alcohol related. Victims aren't related to a criminal enterprise. And when you weave your way through these incidents, sometimes the line is very blurry and hard to understand. Now, the case I'm going to talk to you about involves a man named Rupert Brown. And when I first got into this, almost right from the beginning, I could tell Rupert was a good soul. Rupert. He's 42 years old when he disappeared, missing December 31st, 2020, not that long ago. He lived in Riverton, Wyoming. He was a Northern Arapaho tribal member, and he predominantly lived with friends and relatives. He did not have a phone or vehicle. Seems odd these days. Now, Riverton, Wyoming, I'm sure some of you have heard of this location before because I've talked to about it many times. I've talked about Lander, Wyoming before, and I've talked about this entire area. This is the Wind River Reservation. A lot of disappearances in Wind River Mountains right here and throughout this area. Friends, it's a spooky area. I've been there. I spent almost a week in the Wind River Mountains. It's scary. I mean, there's something about that area that is really unusual. Now, Rupert, on December 31st, 2020, he stopped by his sister Ann's house. Now, Ann and Rupert were good friends. And he would occasionally stop by to say hi, kept in contact with her. They had an older brother who lived in another part of town. And he came by to ask Ann for a ride over to the brother's house so he could spend New Year's Eve with him. Now, when he asked for the ride from Ann, she said, yeah, no problem. I'll give you a ride over there. But first I got to give my husband a ride over to a doctor's appointment. And I'll drop him off. I'll come get you and give you a ride over. She goes, why don't you just hang out here and I'll be back. Rupert, easygoing guy. Says, no problem. I'll hang out with the kids. And he and her boys got along really well. We stayed at the home. Ann left. Short time later, half an hour, she comes back and she sees his coat hanging over a chair just like it was when she left. She expects to find him in the family room or in the living room with her boys watching TV. But she walks in and asks her son, hey, where's Rupert? Son goes, he was just right here. Where'd he go? I don't know. He was just right here. So Ann searches the house. Rupert's not there. They go outside and they search the area immediately outside, and he's not there. Now, what's seemingly completely irrational about it is it's freezing frigging cold outside. Nobody goes out there without their coat. Now, it's called the Wind River Reservation. It's called the Wind River Mountains. It's called wind for a reason. Wyoming, it's almost always windy. So when you take the wind chill coupled with the temperatures in the 20s, you're talking about temperatures in the low teens. That's why nobody went out without a coat. Now, Rupert wasn't dementia. He wasn't early dementia. He had all of his marbles. It just didn't make any sense. And when the son said he was just right here, and then he's not, they were baffled. Well, Anne went back to pick up her husband, and on the way back, she drove the area of the town that she thought he'd be in, couldn't find him. She said at times that it wasn't unusual for Rupert to not call for a few days. But not calling for several weeks, that was unusual. She describes a close relationship between the two. And after not hearing from him for several weeks, she contacted every family and friend she could think of. The friends described Rupert as someone who didn't have a lot, but was a very giving person and had a kind and helpful attitude. Well, after the 2 weeks, Anne reports her missing to Riverton police. About this time, one of Rupert's cousins reported seeing him in downtown Riverton on the day he supposedly disappeared, December 31st. Now, this is reported weeks into January. So I don't know how they remembered the exact day or the time, but this cousin said that they saw him. And the cousin said they were driving their mom around. She made her observation it was Rupert, made a U-turn to come back to him, and all of a sudden he was gone. They drove around and looked for him and couldn't find him. And they said it was bothersome because it was so cold outside. They said that they circled the park in downtown Riverton and they couldn't find him. He seemed to have vanished again. Well, the missing person report was on file. And on January 20th, 2021, the Wind River Police Department, FBI, Shoshone Arapaho Fish and Game, and members of the community conducted a search of the woods behind the Beaver Creek housing area where Rupert was last seen. They seemingly discounted the sighting of the cousin at the park and focused on the area where he was at by Anne's house. Anne said that there was a former Riverton PD detective, a man named Billy Whiteplume, took a special interest in this case and got permission from his department to actually search for Rupert even on his days off. Anne and her family tried to do things to propel interest in the case. And what they did is they produced a series of posters and they put it throughout the region, hoping that if anybody saw Rupert, they would come forward and report it to the police or to them. So Rupert went missing December 31st, 2020, say the first day of this 2021. So he'd been missing for over 5 years. Nobody's seen him. I think that's very bizarre. For a man who wasn't involved in any criminal activity, wasn't drunk, wasn't on drugs, kept to himself, was kind and polite, to suddenly evaporate off the face of the earth is stunningly unbelievable. The search that multi-agencies did, they found nothing. Many tips over the 4 years have come into the police. Some said that he was murdered. but it was all conjecture, no facts, no evidence, nothing. Well, I've chronicled others missing in this area, as I've explained. There's 4 people missing on the Wind River Reservation, and there's 15 people missing in Fremont County, Wyoming, that I've also chronicled in my books, a couple of them right out of Lander. The environment in this region of Wyoming is brutal. The name of the reservation, the Wind River Reservation, the wind is a constant. Nobody saw Rupert leave Ann's home. Fact. If the door had opened to her house, there would have been a rush of very cold air, and you think the kids in the house would have recognized that Rupert was leaving, but they didn't. And then, since Rupert had all of his marbles, why would he walk out and leave his coat inside? He was in a loving environment, his sister's home. Kids loved him. There was no reason to leave, and a ride was imminent to go to his brother's home. He knew Ann was going to come right back. He was never found, and there's absolutely no viable explanation about what happened here. Yeah, I find this very odd. 2 times in one day, supposedly, he just vanished. One time near the park when the cousins saw him, and at Ann's house. What do I think happened? This one's a true mystery to me. He had no reason to leave. He was under no threats. He was sober. He didn't have dementia. I have no clue. So again, Rupert Brown, 42 years old, December 31st, 2020, Riverton, Wyoming. Remember that face. All right, folks. How many of you have seen American Sasquatch Man, Myth, or Monster? Raise your hand. Good. Do you remember a man in there? I interviewed him extensively in the movie, named Stan Gordon. Stan's a brilliant investigator. He had a predominant place in the film because I've respected the research he's done over the years. It's phenomenal. When he first started doing research, he was looking at Bigfoot. And then reports started to come in that related Bigfoot and UFOs. And he said, Dave, I tried not to merge the 2 topics. I was trying to stay credible, but I couldn't stop. The number of reports that came in that linked the 2 were overwhelming. And that's a credible researcher. Well, at the end of every year, Stan writes up a summary of the top cases of his year. And he sent me a copy of his report. So I highlighted some of the stories, and they're good. They're good. January 21st, 2025, Hopwood, PA, Fayette County. At 5 a.m., the witness was making coffee when he noticed a glow on the ceiling that seemed to be originating from a light shining through the window from the yard outside. The witness looked out the window and saw 3 glowing basketball-sized balls of light on the ground. The 3 objects were estimated to be 20 to 25 feet distance from the observer. The 3 objects were only inches apart in a triangular pattern. The objects came together and became one light that became brighter. The object rose straight up into the sky and in seconds was no longer seen. A witness reported seeing an unusually large white bird over Rice's Landing beside the Mon River, January 28th, 2025. The incident took place at 2 p.m. The witness was standing outdoors at the time when she saw the creature flying at rooftop level. The winged creature was described as pure white and feathered. It had the head, neck, and features of a raptor with pale yellow legs. The wingspan was estimated to be between 12 and 15 feet. The witness could clearly make out the individual feathers on the wingtips. It was carrying something long and slender, black in color, about 6 feet long. Had it been the summer, the witness said one would think it was a black snake. The witness is quite familiar with raptors commonly seen here and says it was not a hawk, owl, or bald eagle. She said it did not have a long neck like a blue heron. It flew very gracefully with minimal wing movement. Late January or early February 2025, Derry Township, Westmoreland County. That area that I just read to you, Westmoreland County, Derry Township, is like the center of strangeness in Pennsylvania. The witness was driving to work at 3:30 a.m. The sky was clear. The man believed the temperature was in the 30s. The driver had his high beam headlights on at that time. As he was driving down the road, he saw what he thought at first was a deer on the road, since it blended in with the darkness. Suddenly, he saw large wings spread out. As he got to about 250 feet away, he watched this huge flying creature slowly flap its wings as it rose off the ground. The witness noticed that the head of the creature was first looking off to the side of the road. When it noticed the car, it snapped its head and looked quickly at the vehicle as it rose off the ground. It rose up higher than the vehicle. Then the man lost sight of it and it moved over nearby trees and blocked from view. The witness described this huge bird as being all black with at least a 10 to 11 feet wingspan. The wings looked like that of an eagle. He did see some white color mixed in with the black feathers at the tip of the tail. The head of the creature was facing him. As it rose upward, he saw what might have been a tail that looked to be 4 feet long. He also saw possible legs. The creature stood 6.5 to 7 feet tall. The physical feature that caught his attention was the eyes of the creature. They appeared diamond-shaped and about 7 inches across and were glowing bright red. As he got closer, the brighter they became. He said the glow was luminous, like the taillight of a vehicle. The witness has a long history of hunting. He said this was not normal eye shine like what he had seen in the past. Entire encounter was 15 to 20 seconds. Area was around Chestnut Ridge, which has a long history of Thunderbird sightings. February 19th, 2025, Derry Township, Westmoreland County. The witness at about 10:15 a.m. had left her dogs outside. The dogs quickly returned to the door and went back into the house. When the witness opened the door, she noticed a bipedal creature running across the field over the wood line. The dogs were incredibly upset as they began to whine and then headed toward a hiding place in the house. The creature the woman saw was estimated to be about 4.5 to 5 feet tall. It was covered with light brown fur. It had black fur on its rump. It looked toward the witness a few times and ran off into the woods. Juvenile Bigfoot. This is a drawing that the witness did. Good drawing. February 28th, Derry Township, Westmoreland County. The witness was walking to the car looking towards the woods. That person noticed a long-haired covered creature that was sitting on a tree stump. The creature was estimated to have been about 8 feet tall if it had been standing. The body of the creature was covered primarily with brown hair, some sections of black mixed in. The witness was close enough to see the chest of the creature moving in and out as it was breathing. The observer was so stunned at what was taking place that the thought of taking a picture never occurred. I cannot tell you how many times I have spoke to witnesses and said, "Hey, did you take a picture?" I never even thought of it. A very, very common thing to say. March 17, 2025, Latrobe, Youngstown, Chestnut Ridge area, Westmoreland County. The witness observed something unusual around midnight. A severe storm and possible tornado passed through the area during the afternoon. The power at the house was out due to the storm. The witness was sitting in her home in the dark at the table with a lit candle. She was looking outside, hoping that a power company truck would show up to fix her power. Her attention was drawn to about 50 yards away near the corner of the woods when she saw something that she told me shook her up. She described seeing two objects and looked like thin dinner plates. Both were upright in a vertical position. They were both bright but did not reflect any light. One was burnt orange, the other was white. The witness said she watched them for several minutes. The objects stayed about 3 to 4 feet above the ground in the same general area, but moved around. It's as if they were playing tag. They just kept moving around. The objects suddenly disappeared and were not seen again. She had the windows closed, heard no sound. Her older dogs were in the house and did not seem to be aware of the lights. A woman called her husband, who also saw the objects as well. I asked if she had taken a picture. She told me she never even thought of doing that as she was exhausted from the storm. And when she saw the objects, that really shook her up. As I have stated hundreds of times, if you're in an area of a thunderstorm, start taking pictures right into the storm. I would say 50% of the time you're going to catch a UFO right there. And why is that? That's the question. March 26, 2025, Greensburg, Westmoreland County. Solid triangle hovering low over business area in daylight. The witness and a friend at about 6:30 p.m. at the Westland Mall area. The witness and friend were walking behind the Westland Mall on Route 30 and approaching the restaurant they were going to have dinner at. The man happened to look up in the sky towards the casino and observed a large solid black triangle hovering. Pointing to a friend who also saw it. He looked back at it twice as they were about to enter the building. The man turned around a third time and looked at it. It was gone. The entire observation lasted only seconds. The witness told me the object appears at a black triangle, no lights, no sound. Estimated altitude 1,000 to 2,000 feet. It was about 8:45 with some light in the sky. I'm trying to get you through to all the best ones that I reviewed. Okay, that's a good one. July 3rd, 2025, Sewickley Township, Westmoreland County. Yeah, if you're going to go on vacation and you want to have some weird things happen, go to Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania. And look up Stan Gordon, and he'll tell you the locations. Drawing of the object seen July of 2025, used with permission of the witness. I'll show it to you in a second. The evening in July, several people were sitting around a campfire having a conversation. Located close to the parking area, the witness and another man were sitting next to each other and looking in the same direction. Other people looking towards them. Suddenly, the person next to the witness began to stand up. They realized he was looking at something. This is when the witness also noticed something odd moving between two vehicles not that far away. The man sat down quickly as the witness I talked with asked him if he would also. The man said he didn't know what it was. The witness noticed he was shaken. The man decided to call it a night. Another person in the group noticed that something was wrong and began to ask about it happened. The witness said it was hard to describe the object they saw. I was told it was a cylinder shape that stood 10 to 12 feet tall, that was silver or gray in color. At the top was what looked like a large inverted bowl with 2 feet in diameter. This is what they drew. Very odd looking. 10 to 12 feet tall, moving between the cars. The area is darker in color. However, whatever it was, it floated rather than walked. The witness said it shimmered even in the dark, like some type of energy surrounded the entire shape. The witness tried to talk to the man the next morning, but said he was just wanted to forget about it. Derry Township, again, Westmoreland County. July 12, 2025. That evening, two people driving through a rural area saw a bright blue orb in the trees. 10:20. They soon looked around the area and found no source for what they saw. Ruffsdale, Westmoreland County. Huge football-shaped shadow above vehicle on road. 10:20 a.m. The witness was traveling on a country road when suddenly a huge shadow appeared above his vehicle. It was a clear, sunny morning. He then saw something straight down the middle of the road, a solid-looking shadow of a solid, silent, 100-foot-long, flat football-shaped object moving slowly toward the north. He bent down looking around above him but could not see anything. He immediately sped down the road to turn around where he could have a clear view of the sky, but there was nothing. He called me soon after the incident and told me I'm still freaked out. That would freak me out too. July 17, 2025, Monaca, Beaver County. A small orb touches a woman. Small orbs touching you are not a good thing. Small blue orbs touching you is a really bad thing. One report out of Oregon years earlier, small blue orb entered a vehicle. A dad and his daughter went through the dad, came out. Dad supposedly got cancer and died later. July 27, 2025, Connellsville, Fayette County, 4:30 a.m. Security camera alerted movement outside. Video shows orb moving low in the back deck. Another witness reported a UFO incident a short time later in the same area. July 27, 2025, luminous object moving over this Chestnut Ridge area, same time, same location almost. The witness was leaving for work at 5:17 a.m., walking to his vehicle when he happened to look up in the sky. The witness thought that he was watching a satellite moving steadily across the sky. As he watched, the small satellite object suddenly slowed down and began to become larger and very bright. It was a white-blue color. It became the largest and brightest object in the sky. It looked like an old-time sodium street lamp. Moments later, it began to shrink in brightness and size and returned to looking like a satellite moving continuously across the sky. 15-second observation. Border of Westmoreland and Armstrong County. At about 4 p.m., a man walking on his dairy farm down by the tree line smelled a terribly strong odor that lasted a brief time, then dissipated. He also found 2 large footprints in his field. He measured a right and left track of 16 to 17 inches. The week before, 40 feet of fence line was knocked down with no explanation. Bigfoot sightings have been reported for many years in that area. August 12, 2025, Pittsburgh, Allegheny County. A family was traveling in their vehicle on a parkway when a passenger noticed an object in the sky around Settlers Ridge area at 7 p.m. The object was described as shiny metallic orb that looked like a car hubcap in shape. It was observed for about a minute when it suddenly just disappeared. The sky was clear and sunny at the time of the observation. When something is in the sky and there's no clouds and it's obviously there, and then the next second it's gone, is that moving in and out of our dimension? August 25th, 2025, between Scottdale and Connellsville, Westmoreland. 5 a.m., the witness was getting ready to go to work. The witness was walking down the hallway and was closing his bedroom door when he looked into the room across from it. The door was open. This is when the witness observed a round ball of light, 10 to 12 inches in diameter, 8 to 10 feet from him. The object was motionless and hovering about 3 to 4 feet above the floor near the window. The object itself looked to be whitish gray in color and seemed translucent, especially around the outer edges. In the center of the object, there were pulses of what looked like static electricity or lightning bolts that were whitish blue in color. They were emitting from the object from around the center area. Seconds later, when the witness felt that the object sensed he was nearby, the object just vanished. Moments later, from outside the window, there was a bright glow. There were blinds on the window so he could not see the source. Witness quickly opened the back door and looked out. There were no cars in the area and the glow was gone. The sighting lasted several seconds. No odd smell or sound reported. The other thing was the house cat, every morning when it hears that the witness is up, meets him outside the bedroom door. He gives the cat a treat while making coffee. The cat was not there that morning, as it was hiding in the kitchen and didn't come out until the light was turned on. That's a smart cat. September 11th, 2025, border of Westmoreland in Indiana County. At about 9:30 in the morning, a family member had just exited a building on their rural property. The witness caught movement out of the corner of her eye towards the wood line. About 40 feet away in a section of the woods where there were few trees, she observed a small, hair-covered creature, 3.5 to 4 feet tall, that was covered with light gray hair. The creature that was walking upright on two legs and was moving slowly and never looked toward the witness. The arms extended below the knees. The ear that was seen looked like a human ear and had a lot of hair around it. No facial features could be observed. No smell or sounds were noticed. The creature kept moving toward an area of thicker woods and was lost from sight. It was seen for about 3 minutes. The witness did not have a phone. The day before, a large area of soybeans had been knocked down as though something heavy had walked through that area. October 23rd, 2025, Uniontown, Fayette County. Glowing sphere passes through wall. The object was seen by a witness who had gone upstairs to a spare room to get a book from a collection he has there. Planned on doing some reading before going out to take care of other business. The room is on the second floor of the house facing the back. It is unheated as he is living on the first floor. The door was shut to conserve the heat in the rest of the house. What happened next is what he stated. Quote, I reached down and opened the door to enter. Sitting about the middle of the floor was a white ball the size of a soccer ball. It was like I disturbed it or something because it immediately rose up about a foot off the floor, stopped, and then shot straight out through the wall below the window and was gone. It never made a sound or anything. It just reacted to my entry into its space. The only thing I noticed was a smell in the room. I have been following other reports like this from people who study such things, so I'm aware that these balls of light, I've never thought I would see one. End of quotes. I contacted the witness and was able to draw out some additional details. Stated he went over the window where the object went out the wall and saw nothing in the way of the residue. When asked about whether it could have been through the window instead of the wall, he says there's no way it went through the wall. I also asked about the smell. Said he was not sure what it was. He ruled out any stale air odor, any floral smells, plastic smells that might account for it. He also stated he looked outside and saw no evidence it had disturbed or left any evidence of its presence. October 25th, I met the witness and examined the location. House is a 2-story frame construction, typical of the 1930s, as are most homes in this area. The area below the window is about 15 feet above the ground. I did a scan using magnetic and environmental tests in the room as well as outside. All results were normal. Also brought along a few aids to try to identify the smell. I melted samples of different types of plastic in an attempt to find one that matched the smell. I also had a few damp wood samples and had him compare them. He said one was close but not convincing. Next test I did was using Jacob's ladder device. This creates an ozone when the electric arc is drawn. He immediately hit on that one. He said it was exactly what he smelled in the room. I should add that he also noted the electric arc made a sound that he was certain the actual vent had no sound present. I explained that the device was only an easy way to generate ozone and does not imply electrical arc was possible. October 25th, Derry Township, Westmoreland County. How many times do I have to tell you this place is just bizarre? About 9:30 a.m., the witness had just left the dog outside. That person noticed movement across the property by the woods. About 150 feet away, the witness sees what looks like a solid, upright figure that seconds later becomes shimmery in appearance. It then returns to looking solid, then back to shimmery. When it was solid looking, it looked beige in color, 7 to 8 feet tall, 5 to 6 feet in width. The form change occurred 3 times within seconds. There is some similarity with the strange incident reported on July 3rd in the above report. October 25th, Derry Township. 9:30 a.m., the witness had a dog out for a walk on the front porch. Person caught movement out of the corner of her eye, looked toward a wooded section. 150 feet away, she sees what looks like a near solid figure. Then seconds later, it becomes wavy or shimmery. Moments later, it goes back to being more solid, then back to shimmery. Tall shape was a beige color, 7 to 8 feet tall, 5 to 6 feet wide. Seen for 3 to 4 seconds. Now, this is a bizarre one. Derry Township, October 25th. 2 people were pulling into their driveway at 4:45. One of them looked across the yard. They both saw an animal that looked somewhat like a deer, about the size of a large doe. It was covered with dark brown fur and moved very much like a deer. As they watched, the animal began to trot towards them. As it got closer, it suddenly disappeared in front of their eyes. Even stranger, the animal had no ears or facial features. The one person asked the other person, "Did you just see that?" The other person replied, "Yeah, but it wasn't a deer. It just disappeared." This is from Stan. During the last few years, I've been receiving reports of creatures that resemble a deer. However, the creatures look and act differently than deer, and those people are familiar with. There have been somewhat similar reports in other states as well. So friends, when I tell you Stan Gordon is a phenomenal investigator, he is. I've seen him interview people. He knows when something's questionable, when something's factual, when someone's telling the truth. I wish there were 1,000 Stans across the U.S. because I think the reporting on Bigfoot UFOs would have much more credibility than it has nowadays from some reports that I read. But if you go online, just Google Stan Gordon, you'll find him. He has written some phenomenal books. You'll find them on Amazon. Trust me, phenomenal books. So I appreciate you being here. The website, missing411.com. All of our books, DVDs, Blu-rays, etc. And we have 900 videos on this channel. Number one, when you start watching a video, read the number one pinned comment because that may set the stage for you on that video. On a lot of these videos, I'm going to include a link to all 900 videos. In the last 2 weeks, I had 2 of my videos drop from 60 to 70% of what was normally watched. A phenomenal drop in viewership. I've never seen it like that. And hundreds of you wrote and said, I was never notified that video even existed. So it was shadow banned by YouTube for some reason. It was just a normal missing person video. I have no idea what's going on. So I'm going to put up the link to all 900 videos. Put that on a bookmark on your computer. We post every other day. That way you won't ever miss anything. Kindness, you guys are the nicest. I get cards from you guys regularly. You post and you say nice things. I feel blessed. It's like you guys are all friends. And lastly, I've got to say this. September 2026, we're going back to Alaska again. We already have a ton of signups. You guys will love it. It is the best cruise. If you're ever going to do a cruise in your life, this is it. You'll be around friends, and you will see things from the... You don't even have to get off the ship to see phenomenal things. I can't say enough about it. It's beautiful. It's the one cruise I could go on 10 times in 10 years and never, ever get bored. I'm not kidding you. So, if you can take the trip, do it. Be safe. Be kind. Paulides out.